Welcome back, everyone. Time to do another comparison this time around between the brand new iPhone 12 Pro and the somewhat older iPhone 10R. Now, as you know, both these phones, first of all, the 12 Pro is the newest one, but the iPhone 10R is still being sold in the Apple Store, which is really interesting. So let's go and see whether you should pick up the $499 iPhone 10R or the $1,000 iPhone 12 Pro. Now, I'll find the cheapest ones on Amazon. I'll link them both down in the description below. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, looking on the front, first of all, side by side, you can kind of see that the iPhone 12 Pro is a little bit thinner. It's not a crate or just a little bit, smaller in every dimension, and that mostly has to do with the newer flat sides that we have on the iPhone 12 Pro. But for a bezel-less notched iPhone, the 10R actually had quite a bit of bezel around it. It's not a big deal though. I'm kind of used to it. I think everyone doesn't really care. But just know that in the hand, the iPhone 12 Pro is in a smaller footprint. They have the same size screens though. The iPhone 10R has that 6.1-inch IPS panel on the front, and it was not a bad panel. It's a little bit above HD, that resolution, and I think for a majority of people, this is a pretty decent panel. I don't think this would be anybody's perfect panel, but it had a very little bezel around the whole entire design, had the notch, Face ID, typical things that we already saw on that $1,000 iPhone 10 at the time. So this was definitely a pretty decent phone in terms of that, and I don't think really anybody, if they're picking up this phone, they're really not going to see that crazy of an increase of like quality of design or panel if they go to the iPhone 12 Pro. And that's not to say that the 12 Pro has a bad panel, because it's definitely a good panel. It's a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel, and it looks great. And of course, it's better than the iPhone 10R, but I don't think for the price difference between these that it's that big of a deal, if I'm being honest. Now, the bezel-less, not bezel-less, but with the flat sides, it does make it seem thinner on every dimension. It seems like there's less bezel, which is really cool. Even though it's not necessarily the case, it looks like a better phone in my opinion, and the panel for sure is better on the iPhone 12 Pro than on the iPhone 10R. So in terms of the front, for sure the iPhone 12 Pro wins. Now, in terms of the thickness, I can definitely see how the iPhone 12 Pro is the thinner phone. I think with the iPhone 10R, it feels thicker maybe, but like when you're feeling both, when you're going day by day, you're not really going to notice it. But I really do like the flat sides on the iPhone 12 Pro for sure. And on the back, you can see we have glass backs on both, but the iPhone 12 Pro does have this frosted glass back, which feels really nice. Even when you scratch it, it feels really good. I wouldn't recommend scratching with anything else besides your fingers. You do have a single camera setup on the iPhone 10R, triple camera setup with a LiDAR sensor on the iPhone 12 Pro. Now, they both have IP certification and everything, which is really, really cool, but the IP certification is better on the iPhone 12 Pro, so definitely keep that in mind. But in terms of the outside, that really pretty much covers it up for the most part. Now, you do have that MagSafe capability on the back of the 12 Pro, which is cool, but if you use it, that's cool. If not, they both support wireless charging anyway. Now, in terms of the software side of things, the iPhone 10R is just not going to last as long as the iPhone 12 Pro, so if we could guess right now, but both these phones are going to be supported for quite a bit of time. It's not like tomorrow the 12 Pro or the 10R are going to be unsupported. So definitely when it comes down to the software lifecycle, they're both going to be lasting for a long time, but the iPhone 12 Pro is going to be lasting longer if you get this phone now than on the iPhone 10R. iOS updates are exactly coming out the same exact times and everything, so expect timely updates for sure for the time being, but definitely when it comes down to it, the 12 Pro will outlast the iPhone 10R. Now let's go ahead and do a little bit of a speed comparison between these phones. The iPhone 10R has that Apple A12 Bionic chip inside of it with 3 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 12 Pro has that Apple A14 chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go and see which one is the faster phone between both of these. Okay, now that we're back, let me go and clear all the apps in the background. And let me go ahead and turn up the brightness on both devices too. Okay, that looks much better. Let's go and load up the App Store. 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 12 Pro is faster, and they have Among Us on the front. The iPhone 10 are a little bit behind, not a crazy big difference. And I'm going to throw this grass in here a little bit so it makes it look a little bit visually better. And as you can see, I guess, speed and wise and everything is going to look okay, pretty much the same. Guys, do you like the grass inside of it, be honest? I can move it if you guys want me to. Now I have a bunch of these third-party apps we can go and get into. Netflix, 3, 2, 1. I don't really like this grass. And the iPhone 12 Pro was the faster one. Animations look about the same too, but I'll test it further when I load more apps. Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. iPhone 12 Pro, I think, was the faster one. I kind of blinked for a second, but they both were very close. Dropbox, 3, 2, 1. The iPhone 10R does have a noticeable little, whatever here. The iPhone 12 Pro feels really good in terms of, well, a little cricket over here. Thank you. 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 12 Pro is faster. The iPhone 10R a little bit behind. Again, not a ginormous difference, I would say, but a noticeable one for sure. I think if you're going to compare these two, the 12 Pro is definitely faster. Snake versus blocks, 3, 2, 1. And the 12 Pro is slightly faster than the iPhone 10R. Very close still. The iPhone 10R did glitch up a little bit there, but I think when you're comparing both of them, I think they both were pretty close, but the iPhone 12 Pro is probably faster. Fruit Ninja, 3, 2, 1. iPhone 12 Pro was faster. iPhone 10R, a little bit of a different thing on the front. I don't know what took so long, but I'll probably give the edge to the iPhone 12 Pro, but you don't even have to count that. Paper out 2, 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 12 Pro again was the faster one. iPhone 10R a little bit behind. Getting into some gameplay, we're going to see they're probably going to be about the same or more or less the same. And gameplay wise, yeah, when I look at the camera, they look about the same, and even off camera, they look the same too. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And the 12 Pro was definitely flying ahead of the iPhone 10R in this case, and maybe, just maybe, when it comes to these heavier intensive games, the iPhone 12 Pro, that's probably where the A14 chip probably shines the most. The iPhone 10R a little bit behind, even clicking on the play button, even little things like that, the iPhone 12 Pro was faster in. Gameplay wise, I think they're going to be roughly about the same. As I've stated before, I don't think there's going to be that crazy of a difference, but yeah, definitely the 12 Pro is faster there. Real Racing 3, 3, 2, 1. And maybe the 12 Pro will be faster here, who knows? And there's just so much awkward sound. Okay, there we go. The iPhone 12 Pro was the faster one. And the iPhone 10R is probably going to be a little bit behind it, as I've stated before. Maybe it'll get into the downlink panel. I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't, because then that'll kind of ruin it. But I can definitely tell you when it comes down to these bigger apps, the 12 Pro, like I said, with that A14 chip, as you can see, that was a pretty big difference. And if you're trying to play a game as fast as possible, the 12 Pro, that was a pretty big difference in terms of the gameplay for sure for app opening. We can go and end it off with Stack 3, 2, 1. And that in and of itself, I mean, I don't even have to open up this app to show you that the 12 Pro is more faster more times than not. And that's a pretty big deal in my opinion. When you have games like this, loading the games is one thing, but playing them and everything will also probably be better on the iPhone 10R, on the iPhone 12 Pro. So when it comes down to it, I can definitely say the iPhone 12 Pro is the faster phone. I mean, I didn't even have to do this comparison to tell you guys that. This is a very fast phone, the 12 Pro is, and there's really no reason for you to look for other phones in terms of performance, in terms of iPhones, because the iPhone 12 Pro is definitely the faster one for sure. Now, the iPhone 10R did glitch up there a little bit when it came down to the RAM management. So that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind too. They're both kind of looking the same here, but definitely when it comes down to it, the iPhone 12 Pro is the better performing device for sure. Let's go and hit on the cameras. Now, as stated before, the iPhone 10R has a single camera setup. iPhone 12 Pro has a triple camera setup with a LiDAR sensor, 12 megapixel wide angle lens here. The 12 Pro has the 12 megapixel wide angle lens, 12 megapixel telephoto lens, then a 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor, as well as a LiDAR sensor. And looking at both of these side by side, I don't really think you're going to see a huge difference when it comes down to the cameras themselves or the user interfaces. The cameras themselves are going to be a bigger, difference for sure. But the user interfaces look about the same, as close as you can get. They both can do 4K at 60 on the back camera. I think the front camera is probably where the bigger differences lie though. The iPhone 10R can only do 1080p on that front camera. The iPhone 12 Pro can do 4K at 60 on that front camera, which is a huge asset for sure. Now you still have photo mode, portrait mode, all that stuff on both, but that's a pretty big difference for the front camera. Now, the iPhone 10R, in my opinion, had a pretty good camera, and I think the software was probably its biggest asset for sure. There wasn't really much to hate on here, and you can do portrait mode, like I said, you can do 4K at 60 still in that back camera, but I think the biggest problems that this camera, probably relied in were the lack of extra sensors for sure. I feel like when it came down to the other cameras of that year, the iPhone 10s, 10s Max, those had better cameras because of the extra sensors. And when you look at the competition, even like the 12 Pro, this one has so many more sensors than the iPhone 10R. And the quality I think is pretty good still. If you have the 10R, I wouldn't upgrade just because of the camera. But just know that the 12 Pro is going to probably have the better camera when it comes down to it, mostly because of those extra sensors. Now the software has improved. The A14 chip, I'm sure, holds a lot of value when it comes down to that increase in camera quality. But I still think when it comes down to it, The iPhone XR has a good camera. The iPhone 12 Pro's camera is probably noticeably better, and I will probably be doing a full camera comparison very, very soon. I just did a full battery comparison, so it's only time that before I do a full, camera comparison. But definitely when it comes down to both of these, the iPhone XR still has a pretty good camera. The iPhone 12 Pro is the better camera when it comes down to it. Now, ending it off with the battery life, the iPhone XR and the iPhone 12 Pro, first of all, that they kind of have like similar size batteries in a way, but I did just do a full battery comparison. I don't know when that's dropping, but I pretty much found that the iPhone 12 Pro, from my test, has a better battery life than the iPhone XR. But I will say, with iOS 14, it has taken a huge toll on battery life. So I think over time, iOS 14 will get better. iPhone XR's battery will be better. Theoretically, the iPhone XR's battery should be better than the iPhone 12 Pro's. But from my test, the 12 Pro had a little bit better battery life than the XR. But again, I think that has a lot to do with the software, and over time, this could probably beat the 12 Pro. Even if this is on iOS 13, I think it could beat iPhone 12 Pro. So in terms of battery, that covers it up. Now, to sum up this video and say answer the question, should you pick up the iPhone 12 Pro? Should you get the XR? Should you keep the XR? What I can tell you is that if you have all the money in the world, getting the iPhone 12 Pro obviously is the better way to go. It's the best phone. It's one of the best. It is the best iPhone right now you can pick up, and it's one of the best phones. And it's just a no-brainer. If you have all the money, then obviously get the best phone. But if you're on a budget, the iPhone XR is a quality phone still. It's not that old. It's still, completely relevant, and there's not that much to hate on it. You have a beautiful display, kind of compared to the OLED display on the iPhone 12 Pro, maybe not, but the XR's panel is still good enough for the most part. The camera quality is good. The phone is smooth. It's still getting software updates for a very long time, and it's $499. It's like half the price as the iPhone 12 Pro, and that is the biggest reason why I think the iPhone 10, like if the iPhone XR was $1,000 or $800, then I don't think it would be a good deal at all. But the fact that it's $499 makes this phone that much better of a value in my opinion. Now the 12 Pro, with it being $1,000, it feels like $1,000 phone. It has a lot of good heft to it, and it does feel better than the iPhone XR. But I just don't think if you have a XR, you should go to the 12 Pro, and I don't think if you have like an iPhone 11, you should go to the 12 Pro either. I think the 12 Pro is probably a really good upgrade for people who have like I think even an iPhone 10 to the iPhone 12 Pro, it's a good upgrade, but I think the iPhone 13 series is probably going to bring a ton of new improvements and everything, and I cannot wait for them to drop those. But I'll probably say I would recommend keeping your iPhone XR. If you don't have either one of these and you want to save even more money, probably getting a used iPhone XR or getting a used iPhone 11. Those things are probably going to go down below that $599 brand new price tag, but even $599 for an iPhone 11 is good price too. So in terms of that, that really pretty much covers it up. Again, if you want to pick either one of these, links will be down in the description. Cheapest prices on Amazon, I'll find them. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. That's really pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section as well. Hit the like button, that means so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.